I was 22 when this happened. I'd just graduated college and was between jobs, picking up odd work around my small town, babysitting, cleaning houses, running errands, basically anything that paid cash. A woman I had dog sat for in the past recommended me to a friend of her neighbors, a man named Craig. He called one afternoon and explained he'd be traveling for a week and needed someone to stay in his house to look after his golden retriever, Max. He said Max was anxious and did best with someone actually staying overnight rather than just coming by to feed him. The pay was better than usual, so I agreed. Craig was in his late 40s, tall, wearing wire-rimmed glasses and a windbreaker. Nothing about him seemed strange at first, maybe a little overly friendly, but not creepy. His house was on the edge of town, tucked back in a wooded area. The place was nice but dated, with beige carpets and floral curtains. He walked me through everything, how often to let Max out, where the spare key was, which fridge items I could use. He told me I could stay in the guest bedroom, right off the living room on the first floor. The first 2 nights were normal. I watched TV in the living room, took Max on his walks, and then slept in the guest room with him curled up at my feet. The 3rd night, things went wrong. I was sitting on the bed scrolling through my phone when I noticed something odd on the dresser, a digital alarm clock. It looked newer than everything else in the room, black plastic with a bright blue LED display. As I leaned closer, I noticed a small, perfectly round, black pinhole above the numbers. It was pointed directly at the bed. My stomach dropped. I had read stories about hidden cameras and clocks before, but never thought I'd see one in real life. I picked it up. It was heavier than it should have been, and I heard a faint buzzing sound inside like a tiny fan. That was when Max, who had been lying by the door, suddenly lifted his head and started whining. From deeper in the house, I heard the unmistakable sound of a door closing. Craig wasn't supposed to be back until Sunday. It was only Wednesday. I froze, heart pounding, then heard slow footsteps on the hallway carpet. I quickly set the clock back down and locked the bedroom door just as the steps stopped outside. Then Craig's voice came through, calm but slightly out of breath. He said he had left something in the room last time he was home and needed me to open the door. I stayed silent. Moments later, he claimed the device wasn't a camera at all, but a motion sensor for the dog, and that he hadn't wanted to freak me out by mentioning it. When I didn't respond, his knocking turned into pounding. His voice grew sharp and angry. Max barked and jumped at the door, making him sound even more agitated. My only way out was the window. My hands shook so badly it took 3 tries to unlock it. Craig shouted that if I didn't open the door, he'd use his key and call the cops, saying I'd broken into his house. I didn't wait to hear more. I shoved the window open, climbed out awkwardly, and dropped into the grass outside. I ran barefoot down the gravel driveway until I reached the road. I called my mom and hid behind a cluster of mailboxes until she arrived. The next day, I blocked Craig's number and spoke to a lawyer. He told me that without physical proof of the device being a camera, pressing charges would be difficult. Craig could claim it was just a sensor, and it would be my word against his. I never got paid for those nights, and the woman who recommended me stopped responding. To this day, I still check every clock, smoke detector, and picture frame in my own apartment. And I can't shake the thought that Craig may have been inside that house the entire time, watching me through that little black lens. I booked an Airbnb in late September, about a week before my girlfriend Emma and I were planning to visit her sister. The place looked cozy in the photos, an old 2-story house with a wrap-around porch and hardwood floors. The only odd detail was a note saying the basement storage room was off-limits. That didn't seem unusual, so I ignored it. When we arrived, the host, Alan was waiting for us on the porch. He was in his late 50s, thin grey hair neatly combed, flannel shirt tucked in perfectly. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. His voice was polite, but there was a firmness when he showed us around. When we reached the basement door, he tapped the heavy padlock on it and told us firmly that it stayed locked. His tone made the hair on my neck stand up. That first night, I woke to a faint, dull thud from below us. I brushed it off as the house settling, but the second night, around 2:30 in the morning, I woke to the sound of dragging, something heavy being pulled across the basement floor. Then footsteps, long pauses between them, almost like someone was listening. Emma whispered that she thought she heard breathing. By the third night, the house felt heavy. I checked the basement door during the day. Still locked, but I could smell something sour and damp from behind it. That night, the noises started again. Metallic clinking. Footsteps. On the fourth night, Emma noticed the smoke detector above the bed looked strange. I stood on a chair and unscrewed it. Inside was a tiny camera, its green light on. My stomach turned cold. Searching the room, I found another lens poking through the wall near the mirror, both aimed at the bed. We packed our bags and drove to the nearest gas station to call the police. 2 officers came and followed us back. The cameras were still there, recording. But when we showed them the basement door, it was wide open. The officers went down first, and soon there was shouting. They called us down and asked if this was our host. To our horror, Alan was hiding in a closet in the basement, surrounded by equipment and monitors. He had been spying on guests the entire time. He was arrested for trespassing and invasion of privacy. Airbnb offered us a voucher to smooth things over, but the experience stuck with us. Emma and I haven't trusted Airbnbs since. My name is Joe, and this happened about a week ago. I live in a 2-bedroom apartment with a roommate I met through Facebook, a guy named Eric. At first, he seemed normal, quiet, polite, a little awkward, but fine. For a while it worked. We had opposite schedules, so I barely saw him. But then I started noticing strange things in my room. My closet door left open, my desk chair turned toward the bed. I brushed it off until one Saturday morning while cleaning I spotted a small black dot in the corner of the wall near the ceiling. It was a tiny wireless camera aimed directly at my bed. My stomach dropped. I pulled it down, but the memory card was gone. The only person who could have put it there was Eric. I hid the camera in my nightstand to test him. 2 nights passed. Nothing. But on the third, I woke up around 3 a.m. to the sound of my nightstand drawer sliding open. Through half-shut eyes, I saw Eric standing in my room, bent over, rummaging through it. Then he froze. Slowly, he turned his head toward me, and in the dark, he whispered, "I know you're awake." Ice went through my veins. He asked me what I had done with it. I sat up, demanding to know why he put a camera in my room. He insisted it was because he thought I was stealing from him. I told him he was lying. The camera was aimed at my bed. We started shouting. Finally, I grabbed the camera from the drawer, stormed into the kitchen, and threw it in the garbage. I told him to stay out of my room and that I'd report him to the landlord. He just stared blankly, fists clenched before going back to his room. The next morning, the camera was gone from the trash. Eric still lives here. We don't speak, but when we pass in the hall, the way he looks at me makes my skin crawl. Every night I can't shake the feeling there are more cameras hidden around me, and I still don't know what he really wanted to record or what he planned to do with it.